Today's episode is a really special one because I have my handsome husband here as a guest. In fact, my very first guest on my podcast. And first of many, I hope. I actually hope to have Roland join me again, but other guests join me as we keep this show rolling. Today, we're going to talk about an episode that I produced last week, I think, where we talked about marriage is hard and it takes work. And both Roland and I have had a divorce, and now our marriage that we regularly say, in fact, probably daily say, I did not know it could be this good. And we want to talk about how that sentence, marriage is hard, it takes work, how it confused us, how we have a very different perspective on that phrase now. And we believe it might be helpful to others, because it would have been helpful to us back in the day, to understand what kind of healthy heart and marriage look like and what healthy work looks like, because that has had quite a paradigm shift. So there's the intro, and now welcome to our living room as we have just another coffee chat.
Yeah, here we are.
Here we are.
In the living room.
Yes. Where do we start?
Yeah, good question. Lots of ground to cover. I think you started with the hard, and maybe we just spend a little bit of time there talking about that and what we thought was what was typical of hard, and not what putting a lot of hard work and a lot of effort into the wrong places, I think is what we need to convey out there, and is probably what I've taken from my first marriage, and now implementing it here in this marriage. Sorry, not implementing, but just rather the contrast. The contrast.
Well, yes, let's start there, because I know for myself the phrase marriage is hard, it takes work, that harmed me in my past because it was vague. There was no qualifiers on that. And what I know now is it perpetuated significant dysfunction, tolerance of things that shouldn't have been tolerated.
I think it was almost a precursor to that's how you know you're in a good marriage. It's hard.
It's hard.
Like
yes. Like, oh, you've arrived.
Because marriage is hard.
Yes.
So if this one's hard, this has to be it. I'm here. I think may have been the biggest lie for me. Yeah, because it's hard, it must be a marriage. It must be.
And maybe that when, even in dating, in the early warning signs, that sentence still was a problem, because the hard then, I didn't treat as red flags, get the F out. I treated as, oh yeah, right on course.
Yeah, we got work to do here.
As everyone.
We got some work to do here,
then,
and we'll get this.
Yeah.
And it, I mean, yeah, let's not talk about codependency. Perhaps we won't go there today, but they blended really well with my I'll fix everything. Looking for a project almost. So again, alluding to the fact that this is hard. What would otherwise be, red flags were indicators that, okay, yeah, we got some stuff. Almost like a challenge. Like, okay, we're going to do this, right?
Yeah. Instead of red flags being the
no-go
consideration, for a no-go, I just thought they were on par. Like, oh, well, it's hard. It's going to take work. This is hard, so I guess I'll just get to work. And yet I didn't have the clarity of what is healthy hard to help me assess, whoa, we are way overboard. Like, this is not the condition that you just work harder at. This is the condition you leave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think to also put into context what the hard work looked like was pushing a rope, or forcing solutions, or the bigger hammer. We'll just get a bigger hammer. We can fix this. It was so strenuous. It was so strenuous and so exhausting. And so I think that's, to just kind of lightly touch on the subject of what hard was, and now versus what hard is today.
Healthy hard. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so let's do the not healthy hard. What was that like for you?
Well, like I said, strenuous.
Yeah.
My efforts were futile. They got me nowhere. There was lots of arguing. The arguing was, you and I, we get into some challenges, but we always keep our arguing, or it's not even really arguing. We have conversations, whereas I would describe what I was dealing with in my first marriage as arguments. And full on sometimes. I mean, to go as far as to say, stuff flying around, doors slamming, some days, but condescending. Our tones were typically condescending with one another, very judgmental, name calling. There may have been some of that. Elevated voices, yelling, disrespect. Yeah, and just that utter frustration. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can relate to that. That I thought that was pretty typical, and hard. Yeah, arguments on repeat. So arguments
Yes.
where I could write out the script. I know how this is going to go. I know what we're going to say, and I know there'll be no solution or correction, or if there is any adjustments, 3 days. Just the fear of I better shape up good behavior, never lasting changes, no solutions, a lot of lip service paid to those solutions, but no behaviors.
And to be fair, when you're talking about behaviors, you're not talking about which way to put the toilet paper roll on.
Right. The topics
Or-
were grave.
Yeah, these were not about the toothpaste lid. Like,
Yeah.
would you put the lid on the toothpaste, please? Like that wasn't it. It was, and we were talking about behaviors that were incompatible with
Yes.
with a healthy marriage. You cannot conduct a healthy marriage under these with these behaviors inside of it. They just will not work.
Yes.
So yeah, and losing every significant argument for however many years I was married, like that's not typical. Like I couldn't have been wrong every single time. There's just no way. That's not possible.
Yeah.
Those odds, they're not right. And again, I share that because I'm pointing to the hard, just how difficult it was, and the messaging was, well, we'll try harder, we can do better, just and there's a whole backstory to that just blended really well. It just fit. We'll try harder.
And let's look at that. The try harder or it takes work part of the sentence. For me, it takes work meant I'll have another round of the argument. I'll do this again. I'll try to say it differently.
Yep.
Some counseling. That's a good kind of hard, but tried that. Bought a bunch of books. That's probably not a bad idea. But where the hard was not working is I was busy trying to produce a solution in another human being. That is a great attempt at insanity and dysfunction. And it took me a long time to kind of just rip my eyes off of the behaviors I didn't like and the dynamics that my spouse was doing, and just start staring at myself. And I didn't know, that took me forever because I couldn't understand how that would really make any lasting difference. The changes that I thought were really critical were seemingly really associated with his choices. So, that's factually correct also. But I had to stop staring at that as if that was the only solution. And this is where we can look at, and I don't want to jump ahead into what healthy hard looks like, is the work of myself. But
This is an inside job.
Yes.
This is an inside job. There's a caveat there, however. This is an inside job. But again, if we're in a marriage where there is behavior that is not compatible with a healthy marriage, the inside job, the inside work, forget it. It doesn't matter how inside I go or how inside I work.
Yes.
We can't fix this thing.
Yes.
And that's important to clarify. And in those instances, you're better to part ways.
Yeah. And, if I was listening to this podcast 10 years ago, I would be screaming into my car saying, well, what's incompatible with marriage? I wanted someone to validate that for me because I was confused. So thinking of Stephanie 10 years ago, I'm going to speak to that girl today and just list off, I actually did another episode of this, about red flags in a marriage. So I'm just going to list off a whole bunch of things that I would consider incompatible with marriage. Me and many other professionals this is their industry. But let's start with the real clear ones. Infidelity, addiction, deceit. Addiction, like we're talking video games, sex, alcohol, drugs, exercise, volunteering, work. So that there's just gambling. Those things are incompatible with marriage, but so are, emotional immaturity. That is, there's work that can be done there, but that is pretty hard to have a mature relationship with someone who has the emotional capacity of a child. You can't go adult child and expect adult conduct. I don't know if there's others there that I should include. If I do, I'll put them in the notes or something.
There's a litany, but I think we get the point, right? That there's this is just so to speak to incompatible behaviors inside of a marriage. The social media is another one. We could be infatuated with social media. I think you said video games, pornography. The list goes on and on, right? Yeah.
And I just wanted to say, to clarify that for the person who is not quite sure if what's happening in my home does it make the cut? And there are those and probably others: abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, financial abuse. These things are incompatible with marriage.
And regardless, again, to point out the fact that regardless of how much work you do to yourself personally, you're not going to overcome these things.
The healthy response to those things that are incompatible with marriage, the healthy response is to leave.
Yeah.
And it might be leave, separate, set high boundaries of what health and restoration and repair can look like. But it is not, a healthy response is not to grin and bear it and stay in that situation. Mm-hmm. And I know I remember thinking, again, 10, 12 years ago, very confused, unsure if the hard that I was living, is it the normal kind of hard? And I desperately wanted to be a fly in the wall. Literally, if I could have transformed into any entity, I would have a fly on the wall, and I would have gone around to my friends and the people I know who seem to have something decent in a marriage, and I wanted to observe. Because I wanted to gather intel and assess, is your hard like my hard? And it took me a long time to realize it wasn't. We were in different leagues. And that's why the phrase marriage is hard, it takes work, is a risky sentence for us to offer someone who's struggling in a marriage. If we don't know the context of their struggle, we might be endorsing abuse. Yeah. And that's kind of the motive here of this phrase and dissecting it, is I've studied it now, and I've been experiencing it in new ways, and I want to be able to clarify what I'm coming to understand about that sentence, where marriage can be hard in seasons, but it's also flippin' amazing. Mm-hmm. Like the marriage we have now, I didn't know it was possible.
I didn't know it existed.
Yeah.
I didn't even know it was a thing.
No. And so when I found myself in a relationship that was not incredible, I thought, well, I guess I've arrived, because the real great relationships that you kind of hope exist don't really exist. And so I didn't know to have the standard of flippin' awesome relationship. So when I found myself in this is hard relationship, I was like, oh, this is it.
Right. So how did we get here?
I don't know. The work. I think we were describing the work in the past and the way that was confusing.
I think it's a value to point out that you and I, in our journey, our timelines are fairly close. Like we divorced at approximately the same time,
Yeah.
and we went after self growth and recovery, and we plunged into it, and so fast forward 10 years later, and here is now the byproduct
Of work.
hard work,
Hard work.
and hard work on myself, not on anybody else.
Yes.
Just hard work on myself, and just recognizing my family of origin wounds. It was a deep dive. It was a really deep dive. But what emerged from that was somebody who has the capacity now to relationship, and so I think
The tools for it.
yeah, the tools, the introspection,
So there might be stuff on the marriage is hard, it takes work in our past relationships that we could clarify a bit more, but let's maybe move on. And if things pop up, we'll let them pop up. But my understanding now of marriage is hard. Marriage can be hard. It can have seasons of hard, for sure. And what does that hard look like? What do we know that it looks like now? I think for me, it means that we're living with another human being, so we're different. I can't expect a clone. I can't expect a person who does things exactly the way I do them or reads my mind. Can't expect that. That's dysfunction. In our situation with blended families, there's complications there. There's a dynamic that's unique to blended families that presents challenges. But our heart is not unkindness.
no.
It is our arguments. Like we've never name called or raised our voice or threatened to leave or condescending, sarcasm, belittling, personal attacks, absolute.
And that's not
You
to say
always.
that they don't get heated. Like we have some difficult
But
conversations. They're very clean. We don't take hostages, right? We don't pile more wreckage on top of the issue and then become distracted by that pile of wreckage. If I'm name calling you or vice versa, then that suddenly becomes the focus. It's like, well, how dare you? And now we're cleaning that up, and we've actually distracted ourselves from the root of what's going on, right?
That actually points to an example for contrast between healthy conflict, as we just described it, and the marriage is hard, it takes work dysfunction version, where there's also gaslighting. Gaslighting, no validation, justification, defensive-ness. That was the old hard and work.
And let's point out that is when there's never being validated is trauma. That's abuse.
Yes, it's emotional abuse.
That's abuse. Just to be clear. So, and it falls under the category of gaslighting, and gaslighting is hands down that's abuse. So, if I recall when things weren't, just to talk real high level, like I saw white and I was told that it was black, and that my thinking wasn't right. And that's abuse. Just so we're clear.
Yes. And so the idea of hard now is learning to do life with someone. There's compromise. There's adjustments. There are hard conversations, for sure. We can still have those. Our skills entering those hard conversations are way different.
And let's speak to that when you said in one of your previous reels or shorts what it was, the half and a half. Relationships are multiplication, not addition. And so yeah, if I come into this relationship a half and you're a half, again, half times half, I don't understand this, but it's a quarter.
Yes, multiplying fractions are it's hard. It's
It's a
hard.
quarter.
Yeah.
But we are a quarter, right? And one times one rather is one, and we become one. And I think that, you know, to go back to the 10 years of investing into ourselves through recovery and through self-growth and books and mentors. You know, I've had a mentor that's walked with me and someone to keep me accountable to me. And now suddenly I think I show up most days as a one. Do I slip back into a three-quarter or maybe, but for the most part I bring a one here, and likewise you bring a one to this.
And when I think of that, that means emotional intelligence, communication tools, self-awareness, a good understanding of my character defects are the ones I like to return to, a good understanding of my wounds and my past triggers and the things that I'm just going to be prone to because I've a human being who's bumped around the world, and a good understanding of where I end and you begin, or
That's
to
a
anyone
huge one.
else. Yeah. So that codependency
Yeah,
enmeshment.
where I end and where you begin.
Yeah.
That was for me recovery 101.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
And emotional regulation,
Empathy,
validating.
empathy and validation is
And actually how to
huge.
do that.
Well, empathy is I got to get out of myself.
Yes.
Right. Sorry, but yeah. So that I think we're starting to get to the hard work and what does
work?
the hard work look like? But yeah.
Well, let's answer that. Marriage is hard. It takes work. What does healthy work look like? I know for myself when it's hard, we're dealing with something difficult. The work for me is figure yourself out. What's going on? What emotion are you experiencing? Oh, I'm frustrated. I feel resentful. I am overwhelmed. Figure it out. Put language on it.
Sometimes I have to say I don't know.
Yes.
And that's okay. And I think I think you're better at it. You get there quicker than I do. There are times where, to be fair, and I think maybe this is a man thing, but to be fair for the men out there listening, like sometimes it takes me a couple days. Like I don't always know right away, and but that's an answer too. Like what's going on for me, I don't know.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah,
It's like also important.
That's an answer. So I happen to be there, and I think we do a good job of this too. Speaking of hard work, you know, rather than painting ourselves into a corner, we have the liberty inside of this relationship to say I don't know. I don't know what's going on with me right now.
And then I think again the work looks like I'm going to make a phone call to a mentor. I'm going to get some perspective on this. I'm going to go pray and journal and Google an emotion wheel
and on
look
the
at,
other
like,
side,
figure it out.
And I'm going to allow you to do that.
Yes.
I'm not going to poke and prod. I'm just going to let you do what you have to do.
Yeah.
And old me would have had to have known. Again, there's that controlling part of me. There's that, you know, and I need to get to the bottom of this now. And instead, that where I end and you begin, I recognize that and again, this is the hard work, the introspection, I recognize and appreciate or understand you're going through something, and I just get out of the way. And sometimes I'll ask the question, and sometimes reluctantly, and sometimes I recognize that no, this is her stuff. She's just processing, and I see you do it with me all the time. You just leave me be. You just get out of my way, and there's a tremendous amount of gratitude that comes with that. When I know that I think my wife's got me under the microscope here. She's recognizing that something's not quite right.
Something's up with Roland.
and she just leaves me to it. She doesn't. You don't get in my face
Because it's not my job.
Yeah.
But the only thing
you
I
give
can
me the
do,
grace, like it's grace is what it is, and you just say, and I get to recognize it. I get to live that, and I think when we talk about like when we say we didn't know it could be this good, that's one of the things that I'm pointing to is that there's a grace here that I can just be. And sometimes it's not the best version of me that I get to be. And you're okay with that. You give me that space to either figure it out, or sometimes I'm tripping over myself. And probably the last thing I need is for somebody to point it out, because I recognize I'm tripping over myself. I'm in the way. I'm not doing this right. So yeah.
I think what's interesting about that, and this, again, I will contrast this to my first marriage. It is pretty darn easy to give you space to process stuff because I know you're processing stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas if I think you're doing nothing and we're just going to sweep this under the rug, ooh, I'm uncomfortable.
Well, a great way to get out of it is I'm going to go call my mentor.
Yeah.
And you're like, yes, you are.
Yeah.
Go do that.
So that's the cue. Just say, honey, I got to
If you
go
want
call.
if you want to out
Yeah.
of a pending argument,
Yeah,
I'm
gotta
going to
call.
go call my friend. I'm going to go call my mentor.
Yeah.
I'm going to go call, and I need to,
Yeah.
because I don't know what's going on for me, and I can be I can be a little more abrasive with another man on the phone, and if, especially if it's something that I'm frustrated with you, I can go get that out with him. He's got big shoulders; he can handle that. And again, not taking hostages, not piling more wreckage on top of what's already brewing here.
Yes, and I want to say that after that hard work, that's the work part, there might be something you still need to bring to me, but it won't be loaded with emotion and reaction.
Right.
It won't be loaded with triggers or fear. It'll be this clean version of, honey, I'd like us to discuss this thing. Or when this happened last Tuesday, was my experience. And that's a tidy, like the process to go from I'm pissed or I'm frustrated or I'm triggered to a healthy conversation about that is called work. That's the work.
Well, and to, again, I think to clarify, like I'm phoning a fellow who's steeped in self growth and in recovery,
Not
and
someone
he's not
fume and
pouring
rant.
fuel on the fire.
Yeah.
And quite often, my conversations with him are, Roland, you're being selfish and self centered. What's your part? Reel this in, back it up. What's going on? I made accountable in that phone conversation, or sometimes he will bring it into a light if I'm in conflict with you. They're fair. This is a fair guy on the other side, and goes, wow, that doesn't sound right. How are you going to approach that? You're going to have to approach it gently. You're going to, we talk about not being condescending, eye rolling, and so on. How are we going to do this? And so sometimes I get there on my own. But sometimes I need to lean into my people to help me out.
Yeah, so I think to capture some of the things we said here, that the work, a healthy type of work that has been, I would attribute so much of our marriage, our incredible marriage, to is this work of figuring out, of self-awareness. What are my character defects? What are my motives? What's going on inside of me? Why do I want to bite someone's head off? And tidy that up. Have the self-restraint to not act it out. And this is where I think tools and learning and growth is so important. Is I believe that, and this is what I used to do, that I didn't have the emotional intelligence to identify the emotion, so I would just act out the emotion instead of say it out loud. And then, everyone else around me was kind of left to assess what emotion does Steph have. I wasn't going to do the heavy lifting to figure out what emotion I have, which would have been mature and healthy. So I would just act it out and everyone else gets collateral damage. Whereas healthy work looks like, Steph, that's my job. I figure it out. And then decide with a rational mind what to do about it. And sometimes it is, I should just eat and have a nap. Or other times it's, you know what, there's more hard work here, and it means we need a hard conversation about finances or kids or behavior or my insecurities. We need to have a hard conversations. That can definitely, there's tons of room for that in a healthy kind of work. But what's unique about that dynamic that I've learned now is it's going to produce a solution. It will have fruit. We have that hard conversation, and we probably don't need to repeat it again. We might, on a different level, another layer of that conversation, but this was new to me. Like, we have a constructive conversation and we come to a solution, and maybe there's adjustments that people need to make, or just conclusions about the situation, or validating, instead of, well, we'll probably just end up in this argument again in 3 weeks from now. And that kind of work, to show up in the midst of a difficult situation as a mature, grounded human being, that's the work I think the sentence implies. And making phone calls to people who can help us become accountable, or we can borrow their sanity because I've lost mine in the heat of this issue.
Yeah.
That is work.
Yeah.
Whereas before, I used to think it, like, endurance was work.
Yeah.
Like, just endure the pain and agony and call it work. Or as believers, call it sacrifice, or like this dysfunction.
Yeah.
And I thought that was the work, and it is not. I'm a firm believer that that is not what is meant here.
Yeah, and it is, and just it is incredibly hard work.
Mm-hmm.
It is hard work to own my part, and to see, to go. It's a lot of times it's putting my pride aside.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot to that. I think. Is there a difference between men and women and pride, the way we leverage our pride? I don't know for sure, but I know that I can get very stubborn through pride.
Mm-hmm.
and I'm thinking of that.
Yeah, I don't struggle with that at all.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
No, it's just a man thing. I'm
don't-
sure of it.
They don't
Yeah, I
always
can't
see
relate.
it your way, Stephanie. Like, just because I know it's so blatantly obvious to you, but it might not be that way.
I don't know. I think it's a guy thing.
But I'm thinking back to an argument that we had, and we were talking about it before we started recording, and we don't even recall what the argument was, but the hard work, right? And so here we are, we're it's tension, upset. There's lots of things happening for us. We're hurt. We're feeling insecure. Mm-hmm. The marriage in this moment is not safe. It doesn't feel safe to us. You are a perpetrator. I'm a perpetrator, right? It's not a safe zone. And it's bedtime. We're
Kind of ended the conversation.
Going down for the night, and there is there might as well be a wall in the middle,
Ice brick wall
straight down the bed, right?
Yeah.
Straight in the bed. There might as well be a wall there, and I, big gulp, swallowed my pride, and said, "Do you want a hug?" And what did you say?
No.
And I responded with, "Neither do I."
Yeah.
Because quite frankly, I don't like you right now, right?
Well, you didn't say that part.
No,
but
I
get that was
that
not
was
part of the phrase. That
Yeah,
was part of
you're right. I didn't
yeah.
say that, but I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't want to hug you either right now.
Yeah, but we should.
But we should. We better. Mm-hmm. And it was like a couple of parking meters that came to life, and we.
Like, I'll just put my body next to your body.
And
Yeah.
but we did it. We did it, and had we not done that, what would that have looked like in the morning?
Well, in the morning we still had work to do.
Right.
But the morning
Right.
was softer, because
Well,
when
we
I
created a safe space.
Yeah.
The safety was brought back into the marriage. Like, we're safe now again.
Yeah.
We're holding each other and we're safe. But what a lot. Yeah, swallow the pride. Hard work. You hurt me. I don't want to. All of these things that are going on. And so yes, we create a safe space that we can now come together in the morning and manage this a little bit better. Because it could have just started out with in the old fashion would have been wake up and slam around the cupboards and the
avoid
coffee
each other
pot and And whereas, yeah, so I mean, that was hard. That was hard work.
Yeah. Yeah. And in the world of healthy hard, I think it is the internal work. That is hard for anyone who swallowed their pride and asked for a hug when you don't want one. Like that, and that's a mild example because it's in the circumstance, but it is hard interior work. Whereas I thought hard was exterior problems, like deceit or the gaslighting or whereabouts or like these problems, and instead of working that way in control or manipulation or arguing in another round, most of the work here now is Steph figure out Steph, Roland figures out Roland, and then we figure out the we. Maybe one of the thoughts that come to mind here as we wrap up is marriage is hard, it takes work. Sure, that sentence can apply. And again, with, I hope, the context and the clarity that we are trying to offer today, I would like to introduce or add another sentence to that is marriage is flippin' awesome. Flippin' awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And it should be full of joy and growth. Yes, growth. It should be a blessing and a strength to each other, and not something that has to be endured or you're captive in or like you're suffocating from. And that is not how marriage was designed. And I think maybe to summarize the old unhealthy idea of marriage is hard, it takes work versus what I know now, I think it is not that marriage is endurance, like enduring torture. It is evolving forward. And that is hard. It's hard to evolve forward.
And I think I'd just like to point to we've got into a few of the things or a few tools that we use, lots of introspection. We talked about empathy, we talked about validation, we talked about giving each other space, lots of grace. But to point to now the fruit of that, if you will, is now our marriage is clean.
And safe.
It's clean all the time. So we're not harboring resentments from days, months, years. We tidy things up. And what that does is create space for playfulness, laughter.
Lots of laughter, lots of compliments. This is one thing we were talking about the other day, in that I asked, how many times a day do you think we compliment each other? And I think after answering that, but also watching it for a couple of days, trying to be unbiased about it, like I bet you 40 times a day. There's either a generous phrase, like a loving compliment in words, or in expression. Like
I love you.
I love you. I reach for you. You reach for my hand. We're in Costco. Just a generous expression of I love you, and I like you.
Yeah.
And it's all the time, and not that we set out to track this or we're intentional about this, but it floors me how abundantly we express that to each other. And it's sincere and it's authentic. But again, I think like you were saying, it's because our relationship is kept really tiny. Yep. The idea that we can sweep a resentment under the rug and it'll just disappear is disillusional. It's like we sweep a sweet seed into the dirt and it'll grow. That's
Never let the sun set on an argument,
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean just at evening. I mean, that's, and at any time we're on top of these things. When these things creep up, we do our best to clean them up inside of, that same day. But like I said, sometimes it takes some more introspection. But anyway, to your point, the streets are clean, and that just creates space to, like say, like each other, love each other, and be either complimenting one another or letting each other, just saying, expressing I love you, or and we do it in so many joking ways. It's so fun. We could write a book.
I think you
that
should.
alone.
You should write a book about
yeah.
the 101 ways to compliment your wife without complimenting your wife.
Yeah. Should I tell the car dealership one?
Okay.
Okay, so we're in the car dealership, and it's a Nissan dealership, if I
so.
remember right, and
Yeah.
I don't remember the car, but I'm
You're
gonna say a Nissan 300 ZX. I don't even know if that's a
Sure,
car.
it's
I don't know if
ZX.
that's a car, but anyway, it was a pretty cool looking car, and I've got my hand around her, maybe on her butt, I don't know, and I say, "Wow, that's a sporty looking rig. The car ain't bad either," and this is what I do.
And the sales guy, he starts laughing.
Yeah.
But it's everywhere. It's everywhere where we.
Well, and how often are we in public? We're in the jeans store, and handsome husband, and the sales attendant's like, "Wow,
What a
that's
title.
Quite a title. What do you call her?" And
This is a PG podcast, so we can't answer that.
no, come on now.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
Yeah, but no, and it's so playful.
Yeah.
Right, it's playful and laughing, and yeah, it's just great.
That might be a great place to leave the
Sign off.
conversation. And if you have other topics that you'd like us to dive into, shoot me a message. We'd love to hear it. And we're keeping a running list of topics other people have already sent in. So thank you for contributing, and we hope we've gained a little nugget through this conversation.
Thanks.
Bye for now.
See ya.